What's up, everyone? I'm going to try to make this really quick video for you to give you an idea of how to calculate out odds in sit and go tournaments, particularly odds for pre-flop calling ranges and pre-flop shoving, to give you an idea of how to play these tournaments. Yesterday, I played on WSOP. Typically, I'll start playing tournaments at noon, and there may be one tournament at noon that is something in my range that I want to buy into. Right now, I'm playing between $10 and $50 tournaments. So there may be like a $20 tournament at noon, and then there may be not another tournament I can buy until 1 o'clock. So I'll throw in a bunch of sit and go tournaments and play those to try to build a little bit of my bankroll back, kind of hedge against variance. And so sit and goes are kind of a very unique strategy because the blinds are going to escalate pretty fast relative to your stack, and you get to a situation where pretty much you're just either shoving all in or folding. So that is kind of a unique situation with learning how to calculate out the ranges. So I've always lived by this philosophy. It was one of my first poker books I ever read. Said something about a loose raise being good, a loose call is bad. So I'm going to show you how this plays out in sit and goes. And I got two hands. I'm going to try to go over both these hands pretty quick. And but first, I'm just going to read this out. Equity or card odds versus pot odds. So equity is a percent chance of winning the pot if your draw hits. Or in this situation, if you call an all in, a pre-flop all in, the percentage that you'll win the hand at showdown. If your equity is higher than a pot odds, you should call. If your equity is lower than a pot odds, you should fold. And then a pot odds is the odds you're getting to make a call. For example, $100 in a pot and your opponent bets 50, your odds are 150 to 50 or 3 to 1 or 25%. All right, so calculating pot odds and determining rough equity on pre-flop all-in bets is an important strategy for sit and go and multi-table tournaments, especially turbo or short stack tournaments. So it even becomes a bigger issue in sit and goes, because you pretty much, this is like the main strategy you're going to be playing. You're going to be playing super tight until the blinds start to escalate, and then you're going to start to loosen up and shove a wide range of your hands. All right, so I have this first scenario. We're at a 5-handed table. I'm in a small blind with ace 3, and there's a player behind me, but we're not gonna really worry ourselves too much with this player behind us. So this guy shoves all in for 2,300, which is about 15 big blinds. And we're on a small blind with ace 3. Now, we might be in a situation where we know this guy is shoving a lot, and our ace 3, well, we think in our head like, well, we got an ace, this should be maybe we should consider calling. But again, I want to go back to what I said before. Loose call, bad. Loose raise, good. So this guy has the value of shoving all in. He has fold equity on his side. So if he gets everyone to fold, he's going to win this small blind, big blind, 225, almost improve his stack by about 10%, a little bit more. So he should be shoving all in here with a pretty wide range. Considering he has a button, I mean, he can make a standard raise, but at that point, he's just allowing somebody to come in and hit something and then put him in a bad situation. Say he has ace king, ace queen, ace jack, those hands, and this guy maybe calls with jack 10, queen jack, 10-9, suited connectors, things like that, and then hit a hand and then shove all in on him. He's not going to realize his equity when all 5 cards are out with his advantage. So I always kind of figure just shoving all in this situation, especially with like weaker middle hands, small pocket pairs for sure. I always just want to shove it all in. So this is a program called Poker Cruncher. It gives us an idea of how to calculate out equity. I've already calculated this out. So our ace 3 against this guy's shoving range of 18.4%, which he's probably going to shove a lot wider. But against 18.4%, we're 44% equity. So he's going to win 55% of the time. I mean, the fact of the matter is, our ace 3, our 3 kicker card is going to be dominated so many times by his even ace 9, ace 8, ace 7, ace 7, hands like that are all going to dominate us. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to raise, even make this wider. So say if he's shoving 51% of his hands. All right, and let me go ahead and add this over here. So now he's got the 51%. All right, so if he's shoving 51% of the hands, we're almost like an effective coin flip against him. So 49% to 50%, basically we'll call this 50-50. This is almost as close as you can possibly get. So there's this other program, not even program, but there's a YouTuber called Split Suit Poker, and he has made a bunch of spreadsheets to calculate out odds, and he gives them away for free. He just asks for a donation, so I would recommend donating to him. I think I sent him like $30. But in this situation, I'm gonna calculate this out off screen. So this guy shoved for 23.63. I'm in for $75 big blind. So if I wanted to make this call, I'd have to call the difference between the 23.63 and 75, which I believe would be 22.88. So how much call? 22.88, and then the pot size is 25.88. So on the fly, this is probably gonna be like 1.1 to 1 or 1.2 to 1. So actually, let me bring this on. So your pot odds is 1.1 to 1, required equity 47%. So especially in this first scenario on the poker cruncher, I mean, if we know that he's shoving this wide 51% of hands, we can justify making a call with ace three. But I'm certain he's probably not shoving that wide, especially players that are not playing a lot of sit and goes. They're probably shoving more closer to. So actually, let me clear this out here. I'm going to add this new equity, calculate this out. All right, so even at 26, no, actually, I think this is doing this wrong here. Let me clear this all out and then start over. So about 30%, add this over here, calculate this out. So even in a situation where he's shoving 30%, your equity is just going to be 43%. So calling 1.1 to 1. Now let's say, give you an idea. Let's say this guy only had 1,300. So he shoved 1,300. That means we'd have to call 1225. So in this situation, if he had less chips, we'd be getting approximately 2.1 to 1 or 32% equity. And in that situation, we would be justified in calling a much lighter pre-flop. So let's say, let me clear this out. Let's say even if he was shoving top 15% of hands in this situation. So we could be getting 35% equity with ace three. Because ace three against a random hand, even against even ace three against ace king, you're going to be about 33% approximately in that range. So you'd be justified in making that call. So you got to learn how to kind of calculate out these pot odds on the fly. Usually, how many times your call goes into the pot. So let's say if you're in this situation where I got to call 2200, 2200 goes into 25 about 1.1, 1.2 times to 1. So if I was calling, if this guy was only shoving for, let's say 1500, so I had to call off about 1425, it'd be closer to 1.5 to 1 because 14 goes into 25 a little bit, but probably about 1.6 to 1. And I'm just to see how close I am. It's actually a little off, so 1.8 to 1. But you got to get familiar with these situations to know how wide you should be calling somebody's shove. And of course, it is also going to be read dependent as well. If the guy's shoving a lot more, then you're going to go ahead and adjust accordingly. All right, so next scenario, in this situation, I have king 8 suited, and I'm shoving into this guy, and this is a three-handed table. So king 8 is going to be very strong, heads up, blind versus blind. And given that I only have about, it looks like 12 big blinds here, it's a pretty straightforward shove all in. And the reason why I say it's straightforward, you don't want to call and let this guy shove and then be in a situation where you're calling off his shove. Even if you're trying to trap him, it's not a good idea, because you'd be better off just picking up this 150, increasing your stack by a little bit less than 10%, than allowing him to take advantage and shove all in. Also, just being a pre-flop raiser is pretty much out of the question, because he's going to be in position for the remainder of the hand. So if you totally whiff on anything close to that board, he's going to be in a situation where you might want to check to him or whatever, and he can bluff you off that hand. So just shoving all in is pretty much the most ideal fundamental situation that you can have here. So I'm just going to calculate this out a little bit here. So I'm going to pull up this poker cruncher. I'm going to reset everything here. So king 8 suited. Now, of course, they're going to be calling your all-in bets tighter than they should be shoving, or at least they should be. You should always be shoving a little bit looser than you'd be willing to call. So let's say about this range sounds about right. Aces through fives. I would bet that they'd probably call fours, threes, and twos also in that situation. Of course, it depends on their stack. If they're a middle stack, they're going to play a little bit tighter than if they were a big stack. That's just pretty much ICM strategy. So I'm going to add this over here, calculate this out real quick. All right, so I got 35% equity against his top 18% of hands that he would be shoving all in. And I'm going to go ahead and calculate out his pot odds to make this call. So in this situation, pot is 1955. Now he has to call the difference of 1805 and 150. So that'd be about 16. It actually wouldn't be about, it would be 1655. All right, so he's getting 1.2 to 1, or 46% would be his equity. So to make this call, he should be winning 46% of the time to make this a profitable call, better than 46. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to clear this out, and let's see approximately how loose he should be calling this heads up shove in this situation. All right, so just to give you an example, I'm not going to go any farther with these calculations here, but with this range of hands, aces to pocket threes, ace 2 off, ace 3, king 4, king 5 off, jack 8 off, pretty wide range of hands. Against king 8, he's going to be a favorite even with his range. So the thing is, of course, he doesn't know I'm shoving king 8, but if he's calculating out a range, it could even be something worse than that. So let's say I'm shoving jack 10. So he'd be 54% against jack 10, which is reasonable to shove heads up in that situation as well. So, all right, so just to kind of cap this off, two different hands, situation where I'm shoving and I'm the aggressor, and then a situation where I'm looking to considering making a call against a button raiser, and just kind of give you an idea of how to calculate out odds, specifically odds on the fly So you're always going to calculate out, is if I'm in his situation, how many times what I have to call goes into the total pot. So in this situation, he has to call 1655, and that goes into the total pot about 1.2 times the one. So let's say if I was shoving 900, so he had to call 750, so that would go in almost about 2.7 times the one. Let me get an exact. So pot's 1955, and he'd have to call, what I say, 750. So about 2.6 times the one. So he's going to need a much weaker hand to proceed in that situation. Of course, there is a tournament strategy that comes into play regarding how many chips you have and how many payouts there are, things like that. These sit and goes six-handed, there's only going to be two spots that are getting paid out. So that's something that you have to factor in. But all right, so if you have any questions about this at all, please feel free to leave a comment. I hope this shed some light on how to play sit and goes, and particularly once the blinds get big, it really turns into a shove fest, and you really got to understand what your equity is roughly. Of course, you can't pull these tools out and do them on the fly. You're not going to have enough time. What your rough equity is, and then playing against the range of your opponent, what they would be shoving in, and that would give you an idea if you should proceed or not. Just looking at this hand, if I was this guy's situation, probably anything. Any big king, any obviously big ace, any pocket pair, I'd be looking to make this call. Even pocket twos, I would make this call. I mean, I feel like that'd be profitable in this situation given his range. All right. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment. I'm just getting started on making some of these videos. A lot of these programs like Poker Cruncher I haven't used in probably about 15 years. Poker Cruncher wasn't a thing, but they had Poker Stove and I believe another program called Equilab, and those are what I used to use. So it's all kind of getting new to me. I'm just getting back into playing online poker. So feel free to drop a comment.